Listen and subscribe to the Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. We are doing a review of the Disney Plus series Hawkeye from Marvel. With me as always is
the other Cam who finally watched Spider-Man.
as well as
this is Josh. No AKA this time. Keep it low key, you know.
And
this is D, and I'm always the professor. Always. Can't be anything else.
So the boringest Avenger has his own TV show. And
why are you slandering, yo?
Controversy already.
Why are you slandering?
Yo, gotta come out swinging.
He is not the boring. He is not the boringest Avenger. We know who the boringest Avenger is, and he's taking up the Captain American mantle.
Wow.
You know what?
Wow.
Am I my brother's keeper?
Hawkeye, for being a human, has done some. We'll talk later. But Ronan.
Wow, yo.
Okay. Hawkeye has confirmed what I thought should have happened in the previous Marvel movies when they were dealing with post-Ronin. He should have been in jail for all this crap he was doing. I was like, how you get a free pass?
Facts.
Like, because nobody knew he was Ronin.
I'm going to say that because
no, Shield and all them knew he was Ronin. They was just like, you know what? You saved the world. And he was wilding. And I was like, how is he...
Wow.
How is he able to just come back and be like, oh, it's cool?
Yeah.
And no repercussions.
So we're talking about Hawkeye. And so this is post Endgame. You know, everyone's back, the 5-year blip, blah, 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 blah. Hawkeye's in New York. He's with his fam. He's seeing this hilarious freaking Rogers musical. That shit was actually pretty stupid. Yo, the fact that they were so serious about it and made it like legit, like got real actors from Broadway, wrote a whole song, set pieces. Like, my favorite part was when Ant-Man shows up and then Hawkeye's like, that dude wasn't there.
Because it's the Battle of New York.
So we get Hawkeye. He's in New York. He's kind of trying to catch up. He's being family man. He's cool. And then we are introduced to a new quote unquote Hawkeye named Kate Bishop, kind of a spoiled rich girl. And circumstances basically have the Ronin suit getting dropped into her hand. She actually uses it to help people, but then by doing that exposes Ronin again to being out into the world. We all know Ronin was wilding out for the 5 years during the blip, freaking killing mad Yakuzas and freaking like terrorist cells and gangs and all this other random shit, kind of like what Cam said. He was wilding. So now this kind of kicks Hawkeye back into gear because he's like, yo, 1, he lost the suit. 2, he's kind of like, okay, who the hell is this? And then 3, he doesn't realize, I don't think the person that has the suit realizes how heavy this is. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of like how our setup is. And to that thing, I actually liked it because, you know, Jeremy Renner's acting is very like wooden and kind of flat sometimes. And Haley Stanfield is literally the exact opposite. She's like fun. She's bubbly. She has kind of a nice personality. Not too bad in the action tip. Props to her for that. And I thought that they did a good pairing of them together. And it was actually kind of fun where I think Marvel kind of finally figured out their pacing situation because this was a tight 6 episodes. They try to keep the pacing and the narrative pretty forward. And as well as they kept the ground level. There's no suit and cape. There's no freaking cosmic shit. It's literally humans trying to do better and kind of going from there.
I would say this. The cool part about this Hawkeye series, I had no expectation. I totally forgot it was on and I binged it. But they gave Kate Bishop's origin story, how she got good in the credit intros. You saw she was doing the archery. You saw she was doing jiu-jitsu. You saw she was a gymnast. Yep. So there was no explanation into her backstory after you see the intro of her being there when the aliens invaded in the first Avengers, right? Yep. And then she goes on this path to become essentially her inspiration, Hawkeye, right? That's cool. I was low-key annoyed at her character because she was just doing the most. And I was like, yo. She's agitating me. But I mean, it worked, but it was just like, oh, God, like, why did you do this?
It wasn't on purpose. She was supposed to be annoying.
Yeah. It's bugging me out, man. So I was like, man, I would have kicked her to the curb immediately. But what was cool that I didn't expect, but remembered was when I watched the end of Black Widow movie and saw. I can't think of that character's name by Julia Dreyfus.
Madam Hydra.
Quintessa? Is it Quintessa?
LaFontaine.
Yeah, Madam Hydra.
Yeah.
So she introduces and plants the seed for Natasha's sister to go hunt Clint Barton. And I forgot about that. And then in episode 4 or 5, she busts up the scene. I'm like, who the hell is this extra character? And I boom. I was like, And that's when it got interesting to me. I was like, okay, now we got some depth. And it kind of introduced some more opportunity for some Daredevil. Maybe some Spider-Man. Some Blade.
Brown level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they left the door. Yeah, and Punisher.
Yeah.
Because of the spoiler alert, Kingpin's reveal near the end, and he's behind all the scene, which is cool because essentially he's behind everything. But like that's the cool thing. And I like the fact that Marvel for each of these shows kind of gives a flashback point of view from a different perspective on each side, showing like what happened during this and how this character came apart. So it flashbacks to 2012 when the alien invasion, we see the eyes and perspective of this little girl of what happened instead of the Avengers point of view. You know, I always like that each show that they have, they kind of give some perspective either during a blip, post-blip, pre-blip, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. But overall, I enjoyed it. Wasn't great, but it wasn't bad at all. And it was very watchable. Like I was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah, I think Yelena definitely like stole the show when she popped up, and like she stole the show in Black Widow. Like Black Widow's like whatever, but like her and David Arbor made it like watchable and fun. And I think when she showed up, it was kind of the same thing. Like the moment that she was there, you're like, yes. And then her interaction with Kate Bishop was just so much fun. And like you can tell that both of them like really want to be there, so they can they're like enjoying just like chewing up the screen the whole time.
Yeah, I think the thing I enjoyed the most about it was the level of escalation. Like it started out, ho-hum. Tracksuit Mafia is not a threat. they're more comic relief than anything.
Yo, I love that name.
But yeah, that is actually a great name. But then, as things progress and more things happen, you start to add on more villains. Echo shows up, then that's an escalation. Then you find the sort of shakiness of her mom and this dude that was kind of sort of the swordsman but not quite. Then Yelena shows up, massive escalation, and then the Kingpin shows up, and you're just like kind of knocked off your feet.
Yep.
Just from top to bottom, I thought it was a really good effort. It kept Clint Barton interesting, which is not easy considering how they started out with him with Avengers. They kind of did him really raw and dirty. But yeah, they took basically, one of the lower tier non-cape, lasers shooting out of his nostrils characters and kept him in, not only made him interesting, but kept him interesting across 6 episodes. I commented, I think, to D'Angelo and Cam that I kind of felt like his Renner's performance was a little wooden, but considering that he's playing a character who's had PTSD, and the only time that he gets sort of bubbly and effusive is around his kids, kind of makes sense when you look at it from through that lens. It does work, and he sells the hell out of it. And I think the fact that Haley Steinfeld is so bubbly and just the opposite of what he's being the entire time sort of makes his performance and what's affecting him throughout the show, throughout the 6 episodes, kind of stand out more. But overall, I thought it was great. I thought it was a really good show. I thought it kept things interesting. It kept adding stakes to the show. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is, there's nothing you can say about his anytime he shows up, he automatically escalates everything. And I mean, I think Hawaiian shirt Kingpin was a little weird, but whatever. It was what it was. I'll live with it. I thought Echo was great. I don't know that there was enough there to give her own show, but all right, okay, I guess.
Oh, she's getting her own show?
I thought didn't she get her own show, Cam?
That's the rumor. I think that's one of those like
No, I thought that was a thing when they did the whatchamacallit.
The reveal when they did all the shows.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the shows.
Yeah. I don't remember. I thought I heard that was a thing, but I didn't know if it was like a for sure thing. But yeah, I think maybe
I thought they had like a full graphic for it and the whole bit. Like they were like, yeah, coming in 2020, whatever the hell they're gonna do it.
Wait, was Echo with the one with the prosthetic leg?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
The deaf girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's part of she's part of the rollout of the new thing. I mean, the thing about Echo, which is interesting, is so I knew the story of what they were going to introduce with Echo, which is kind of interesting, and how that kind of played out. So I knew a lot of some of those bits. I wish they could have gave her something more to do. Again, that's like we were talking about before. But like I could see her getting her own show. She's a woman. She's deaf. She's has one leg. Like they're literally just like crossing all the boxes off.
Yeah, right. That's classic MCU.
But she was dope in action. She was killing it, and I think that part was really really fresh. I think her arc was kind of a little probably the weaker point. I think over the whole overall series, I thought she was dope, but like the kind of like the resolution of what she was kind of doing was kind of like limping along a little bit. And I think the going back to the other stealing of the show, the backup of the LARPers, those dudes were hilarious.
The LARPers were
that was great comic.
Yeah. That was a good like one-off thing where I'm like, oh, this is silly, and then they actually like made them like functional. Like, oh, one just happens to work at the police station. Like, get my arrows back. Oh, another one works at fire. So good on them for like, using a silly concept and actually making it work.
Yeah, I thought overall the show was good. Everything that everybody's saying, it was really watchable. I waited until it got to I think 5 in, and then I just binged it, and then so by that time I was caught up for the finale. So I think overall, the story worked. All the introductions and the stakes and things, I liked it. Like you guys pointed out, the fact that it was grounded and kept on that level instead of trying to, add in the cosmic or add in the bigger sort of Avengers level threats or anything like that. I thought that the only problem I had with the narrative was I didn't think that the mob stuff worked or the crime syndicate stuff worked as well. It was a little underbaked for me. I thought that Kingpin and the introduction to Kingpin was great. Definitely solid. I thought that was like the definitive Kingpin. Like just if the way that Netflix grounded him, like MCU took those sort of layers off, like Kingpin usually is wearing his, a vest underneath, and he's like super strong and athletic and durable, and like to the point where it almost looks freakishly superhuman. Like, like when Kate charges him and he's just like, get on here.
Okay, hold on. So that was the one thing I had. I was like, Kingpin is notorious for like murdering people, like just it took a Punisher, Daredevil type dude to whoop him, and to see, I don't know how good Kate is martial art. I mean, she's good. She knows jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, but to see her kind of hold her own, and the Kingpin don't really just murder her right off the spot by grabbing her throat, and breaking her neck. You know what I'm saying? Because she can't break his grip.
Yeah,
right. So it was kind of like Kingpin had a lapse in judgment and underestimated her. In a sense, because he shouldn't have got bested in hand-to-hand combat, because he's basically inhumanly strong.
Yes.
And it does have that Kevlar vest on.
Yeah, and I think with that, I think the other thing is, I think it's like, one, he underestimates her, and then two, she does get her ass whooped. She kind of just outsmarts him, roughly.
Yeah.
He kicks her. He kicks her the shit out of her. Yeah. I mean, I think to Cam's point, I think in the writing is why position her put her in that position in the first place. I get you had Clint dealing with Yelena, and that's a whole thing, but it seemed like it would be very simple for Kingpin to snap Kate's neck and then go finish off the mom,
exactly.
Without giving it a second thought, especially considering that now at this point, she is involved in his business. She is trying to disrupt his business. So it probably wouldn't have been. It probably would have been more like that he would have just broke her and then finished the mother off.
I also want to know one more thing: Yelena versus Kate. And I think this is because Yelena actually likes Kate because she can't beat a widow.
No, she wasn't trying to kill her.
That's what I was like. Yeah. This fight is a little too easy for a widow.
Yeah, exactly.
You could tell that she took it. So you could tell that she took a shine to Kate. Yeah. In the episode where she breaks into her apartment and she's like yakking it up with her and like making macaroni and cheese and all of that. Yeah. Like that to me, that set the stage for her not just wasting her outright. Yeah. When she arrives to try to take out when she arrives to try to take out her mother.
I shouldn't have saw that as a surprise because Yelena's been pragmatic even in the Black Widow movie. Yeah. Even though she's a widow, she's always been like funny. Or more sensible than her older sister Natasha, who's more serious. Yeah, it's just like you always pose like this and stuff like that. So she's been kind of like that. So to see her, she's like, my first time in New York. Can you show me around? Girl talk. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. She's really straightforward in that sense. She's like, I don't got no beef with you, so I don't have a reason to kill you. Yeah. But I need some answers. You know what I'm saying?
I love when she was when Kate's like, stop, like, no, we not gonna do this. Like, why don't we just go out and have a drink? Oh, let's buy a drink. And then Yelena's just like, yeah, that's cool. We can do that after I kill Clint.
It's like the mission's first. The mission first.
It's like
she's eyes on the prize. Yeah. Also, too, I like that with Yelena. Especially when they're in the macaroni scene. And then Kate Bishop was like, yeah, I almost killed you. And she started laughing. Yeah. She's like insulted.
I just love
it was like that Jordan meme when he looks at the iPad like Gary Payton was like, oh, he played good defense. He's like, all right. Exactly.
I guess that.
So I just looked it up. So Echo definitely is an official spinoff from Hawkeye.
Okay, that could be interesting.
There's not enough there.
Yeah, I'm really curious because even in the comics, like in the comics, she's a foil to Daredevil. The whole scene with that ending scene with Wilson Fisk, that's in the comic as well. Like she finds out that Kingpin's been doing all the shit behind the scenes. That's always.
She doesn't kill him. I think she just blinds him when she shoots him. Yeah,
she blinds him. So she shoots him in the face. Kingpin's blind, and then she kind of goes on her own.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Again, so that shows how strong that fool is to take a gunshot straight to the face. And
there's no scenario where anybody's going to kill the Kingpin. It's just not gonna happen. I don't see it.
And then in the comics, what ends up kind of happening is she's kind of like almost like a secret Avenger at point. So she actually gets the Ronin suit, and they send her on like secret missions when they need shit done or whatever. So I'm kind of curious to see what they do because even in the comics, they didn't really fully flesh her out too much to have some interesting stuff. Like she doesn't really have any notable villains or any other like sidekicks. So it could be almost like a fresh start that can kind of do anything. So that could be a good thing. But I'm really curious to see
from DC a little bit.
Exactly. That's actually a very good comparison. Yeah. And then I was gonna say the only other thing too, I think and then also the whole Rolex watch with Barton's wife kind of alluding that she's Mockingbird essentially. That was that whole thing.
Wait. So okay. That's the part I was confused on. What's the deal with the watch?
So the watch was basically an agent's watch that has all their information and blah, 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 blah. He had to get it because it was up for auction. So that's why at the end, he gives it back to her as on something like that. And if you look on the inside, it says 19, which means her signature was Agent 19. Mm-hmm. And so in the comics,
in Hawkeye, is Mockingbird shown or just referenced to?
They didn't even reference. They just kind of say, they don't say Mockingbird because basically in the comics, Mockingbird and Hawkeye are like an item. They got married at a time, blah blah blah. So in the MCU, they never really say what his wife is, but she's an agent because she speaks Russian. She's understanding. She knows about the tracksuit mafia. Yeah. Like she's intimately involved in all Avengers stuff. She knows what the deal is.
She's aiding him.
So she knows what's up, but they don't tell her who she is or what she is. So the rumor / theory is that she is Mockingbird retired or something to that effect.
Hey, because I was like, she was a little too cool about. I was like, she's an understanding ass wife, knowing everything.
Wife of the year. That's wife of the year.
So, quick question: Did in the comics, do they ever fold Mockingbird into Shield?
Yeah, plenty of times. So she's
they did.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so she would work for Shield for a long time, and then she would be out. She's kind of like, she's like more of a Shield agent than like a Black Widow. Like Black Widow will bounce back and forth because she's an assassin, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But then
she was never a Black Widow. She was an Avenger.
Yeah, so she was more like an Avenger and a Shield agent, and then kind of hop back and forth from that. So she was a lot more into Shield than like Black Widow would be, essentially.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that was the other aspect of it, and then the only thing that was a loose end that got tied up is Swordmaster. He has the Ronin sword. That's the only thing that never showed back up again because he picked it up. And he threatened Barton with it when they broke into the mansion, but then they never showed that sword again for the rest of the duration.
I thought he broke out with it when he was in the house, when he left, when Kit's mom throws him out of the house.
Oh, you're right. Didn't he use it against Maya at the end?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, that's how he fights her with that sword. Yeah.
Wait. Who's Swordmaster in this?
Jack.
Tony Dalton.
Yeah, the dude with the mustache.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Swordmaster?
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, they just don't use
cool,
him as such. I mean, they kind of play with it a little bit, but he's not like an active. They sort of use him as a decoy because he is a villain, but they don't really use him in this.
Yeah, because they kind of made him like kind of a hero in a sense.
Yeah, kind of like the red herring, and then he kind of redeemed himself. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Now this,
but that's like a deep Avengers cut. That's like an Avengers deep cut rather, because he's like early like 60s Avengers.
Yeah, 60 brought it back in the 70s, I think, and then probably the 80s too.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say overall to wrap it up is that taking the second boringest Avenger, Cam, and making them enjoyable and watchable.
Why are you slandering? I don't understand why you're slandering Hawkeye like this.
Because in the comics, the reason why I say this is because the one thing I have to say for Hawkeye in the comics is in the last, say, 10 years, they've actually his personality is actually more fun. Like he's a lot more joking. He's actually like, even the story they built this around with Kate Bishop, like that story is actually pretty dope. And so it's like the way they adapted into this story actually worked out well because I think they kind of did underserve Hawkeye in most of the movies because he's kind of like a very like kind of flat kind of character, and then he's supposed to be the heart of the team and that kind of stuff. So I thought that they actually utilized it in the show a little bit better, where like I said, showing the PTSD, showing him with his kids and that kind of stuff. And so I think one of my favorite Hawkeye stories in the comics is Tales of Suspense with him and Winter Soldier, and like their back and forth banter is like super hilarious. It's done really well by Matt Rosenberg, which is freaking dope, dude. But
hold on, he sorry, go back. Jack is called Swordsman, not Swordmaster.
Oh yeah, Swordsman. Sorry,
yeah. That's my fault.
You guys were thinking of Sportsmaster.
I know.
Yeah, I was like,
that's another character that shouldn't be working, but he is.
Same thing. But yeah, so I thought that they did a good job, and by this kind of convinced me a little bit more about the next slate of things that are coming up that could be kind of interesting, where characters I was like, I don't know how you guys are going to do that, but then now that I've seen this, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you got something.
And also with the new them including cameo wise, and this is spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the new Spider-Man, but just the bringing back in the Netflix Marvel heroes,
Yes.
And I think that what you saw in Hawkeye is that they clearly have a plan for that, and they are doing it in a way that is making sense, and also not having to explain what was going on in the Netflix world. And I think a part of that is with the knowledge that probably not many of their core audience watch those shows. In terms of like that Disney MCU core audience, I don't think they paid as close attention to the Daredevil season 1, 2, 3, Jessica Jones 1, 2, Luke, as much as like the
movies and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly, or the movies and things. So with that in mind, there's a big chance for a fresh start. That's why I like that you didn't need any references of Kingpin from the show. He didn't have to go say anything. Oh, when I battled with Matt, the Daredevil or that, anything like that. There's that gap is wide enough to where it's like you can feel that with however you at the end of season 3 of Daredevil, or maybe that just is a multiverse type of thing where that happens.
Yeah, and I like that he just shows up. He just shows up and he's the Kingpin and everyone knows who he is. That was what I liked about him. So to wrap this up,
you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be anything more than that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I have just one last quick point, I think if there's one disappointment I had, it's that Julia Louis-Dreyfus didn't show up, considering how heavily she played with with Yelena's storyline. Like that would have been cool for her to show up.
But also, she's been big on the ground level stuff. She was in Winter Soldier, walking in Winter Soldier. She was in Black Widow. And she set things in motion. So, that's a good point. It was kind of disappointing that there wasn't at least any more forward motion on that storyline on what's going on there.
Nah, definitely. And so now to wrap this up, Cam, I'm giving you 3 minutes to give us your take on Spider-Man since you finally saw it. 3 minutes and go.
Spider-Man is solid, man. I mean, again, I totally forgot that Charlie Cox, Daredevil, was in there, and I was gonna chime in to piggyback off D'Angelo's. I like how, if they're gonna do this, sprinkle the Netflix Marvel characters in this universe. They got Daredevil and Spider-Man. They have Kingpin in the Hawkeye show. Yep. If they want to bring back Punisher and one of the Spider-Mans, I'm okay with that, as long as they don't bring Iron Fist character back. I'm okay with, unless they improve on him somehow, and I'm okay with them bringing Luke Cage back and if some smaller variation to open up that world, because Netflix had a good thing going with those 4 in a sense, with especially Daredevil and Punisher and Jessica Jones and then Luke Cage, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So overall, Spider-Man was fun. It was kind of weird seeing Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He looked a little off, but it was nostalgic. I personally still like Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Because I relate him to when they touch on, like, I always liked it when they made in the DC universe Batman a detective.
Yeah.
And the Andrew Garfield, they kind of touched on his intellect. You know what I'm saying? Of creating the spider fluid to make the webbing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it was also interesting that in their world, Tobey Maguire, which didn't make sense, but it was, now it kind of, in hindsight, it all works. It's like, yo, your spider webbing comes from your skin. That's crazy. We have to make ours. So it was cool in that aspect that different Spider-Mans have different things. And the overall theme is that they're Spider-Man, but they work a little tad bit differently. And I like the big reveal in the end with Venom. And good thing I did watch Venom in the end, because that scene would have never made no sense to me if I didn't watch Venom 2.
Yeah.
And now it's gonna leave the door open for Venom, for Blade, for Morbius, and all that. I give it a strong 8, pushing 9.
What?
It was cool. Like, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan, but this was a better one because it confirmed what I thought when I saw Spider-Man flying into the Sinister Six. I was like, there's no way in hell there's just one Spider-Man. There's got to be like 2 others there. And when I saw that scene, it was cool. Green Goblin is a menace, and it was cool. I was concerned. It was curious that they didn't bring James Franco character in there because he was part of that. You get to there's like 2 villains per each Spider-Man in a sense, which is kind of explains like, okay, this is my connection. Andrew Garfield's connection was to Electro and another character, Dr. Connors. Yeah, where Toby was Doc Ock and
Sandman.
Green Goblin and Sandman, Green Goblin and Sandman.
Bam.
And then we got the newer one who's trying to fight all 6 of them. And again, it just goes back to my theory at the end. In order for this world to work, Spider-Man needs to be unhappy. So overall, I give it a strong 8. and maybe I can be convinced to a 9, but I'm gonna give it an 8. It ain't perfect, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. I left out. Yeah, it's cool. You know, again, having Daredevil in there helped a lot because I was like, yes, and that was a cool little scene that did a lot for me. So it was solid. I give it an 8. Very watchable. I wouldn't watch it again in theaters because I don't need to, but it kind of tied some loose ends and left the door open for some other possibilities. And I like Venom. The movie's terrible, but I'm a Venom fan. So I want to see how they play that out with. So
yeah. Okay, you heard it here first. Cam likes Spider-Man.
It was solid. The best Spider-Man. I'll say this: the best Spider-Man is the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse. That's the best Spider to me.
Okay, but live action though. Live action, which is the best?
I have to come back to that. That
would have to be a separate pod. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I have to come back to that.
I know what I'm thinking, but that's a good. That'd be a fair pod to do.
All right, so here we go. We got to do a nice little review of Hawkeye. Cam came in with his the back door with the Spider-Man review, and thanks for joining us. This is Blerdlines, and we out.
Peace.